Yes, I know. Last talk, it's always, yeah, the last of the day, right? Different from the other speakers, I bring you more of a concept that's, well, throughout these talks, you have heard of it, right? Data quality, we all mentioned that labeling is important, quantity of data is really needed, noisy labels, data is inconsistent, access to data is relevant. And well, I'm just going to summarize that and what I bring today, which is data-centric AI, data preparation tuning, why, and why it is important now. And I forgot to introduce myself, of course. So I'm Fabiana Clemente, co-founder and chief data officer of YData. My background is in data science, and it was my experience as a data scientist that kind of inspired me to start and focus on data quality and data-centric AI. So you are probably more than aware with this statistics about the failures of AI projects. Definitely we all think, well, this sounds very 2022. And we have heard today that foundational models are definitely here and bringing us so enormous developments around AI. We all like ChatGPT and prompting. So it sounds like data science and AI projects failure sounds like a thing of the past when we see OpenAI and the success of these models rolling out to production to the hands of many of us. But the truth is, and it sounds like garbage in, garbage out is over, it is not that simple. It seems like we still have biases, problems, right? So, pineapple, sure, why not? Thinking about eating an apple, thinking, this tastes like pizza, sounds a good thing, right? Or blueberry muffin looking like a chihuahua. That's curious, right? So, and the common thing about all these errors are probably not the models themselves, but rather the data that was used to train those models, right? Noisy labels that are not correct, lack of data, for some examples, lack of representativity. And that's exactly the proposition that data-centric AI brings us. So instead of just focusing so much on the model, on the hyperparameter tuning, and on the complexity of the architectures, why not focusing on the other elements of the AI equation, data, right? So we have the code. Let's assume that code is model. We have the data. Let's focus a bit more on this. And this probably sounds familiar to you. This term of data-centric AI and even this AI system kind of logic was coined by Andrew Yang in 2021. And well, 2 years since he posted this and presented this to us, this is still so true. And we are still working on it. And yeah, data-centric AI is exactly about going from raw data to what we call smart data. Sometimes it's not about the largest or the biggest volume of data. It's more about how accurate is your data, how complete is your data, how consistent or valid, how you can access it in a timely manner. It's really a pity when you see a lot of the AI projects that are so important for businesses taking just perhaps more than 6 months just to access to the data. When you finally access to the data, perhaps is no longer that useful for the business. And that's exactly what data-centric AI focuses on. How can we look at the data and improve it in these different dimensions? And of course, there are many dimensions to data quality. It does depend on the use case. It does depend on the team that is using the data. And I have here linked an article that states that data quality can be translated in 70 dimensions. It's a lot, right? We usually hear about only 5, probably, or 6, like I have here. But yeah, they are probably around more than 70. And yeah, so all of this, and this is exactly where myself, as a data scientist that struggled with the access to data, with the quality of the data, I'm focusing on building the knowledge, awareness, and the importance of treating data like a product, treating data like an iterative process. So data preparation should not be that process that you run before running a model, and then you just iterate the model. No, data preparation is a full process of iterative. Of course, this is not only a technological problem, but it's how you integrate your technology with the stakeholders, which are business and, of course, your data scientists or users of the data. And we help, or in the technology perspective, as Y-Data specifically, we believe that we should have, or should help in a data-centric AI perspective with the access to data, with the data exploration and understanding, with the preparation of the data, make it faster, less painful. And finally, of course, and because data quality should not be detached from how the data is going to be used, model training and scoring, of course. So how can we translate the data-centric AI into practice? I would say, for me, there are 3 main modules or standards that can be the foundation to the adoption of data-centric AI. Of course, you are free to not agree with me, but I think this probably was already covered in the last few talks. The importance of profiling the data, getting an understanding on how your data looks like from a distribution perspective to correlations, to warnings from business rules and validations. That's for me the first step in every data science project, or even in any project that uses data in the end. Afterwards, the preparation or the data preparation for your data. You need to have the right tools in hand. You need to have the flexibility of combining different methods to prepare your data. And of course, in my perspective, for the future of AI, and not only my perspective, Gartner states the same. Synthetic data is probably a tool or a technology that you might want to be aware. It's not only a way for you to deal with problems around data sharing, privacy concerns, but it can also be a very interesting proposition for you to improve the quality of your data. In case you have small data, synthetic data can be a vehicle to augment the data that you have available. In case you have problems of representativity of minorities, synthetic data can be a tool for you to mitigate those problems. In case you have just a small set of labeled data, might be worthwhile for you to augment the signal of your data for your models that you want to train. And synthetic data is that. Even more interesting, in cases you don't have any data, synthetic data has been proven to be an option to generate scenarios, things that you want to test out, things that you want to validate against. So synthetic data is definitely a tool that, in my perspective, will gain a bigger space in the side of the data preparation and on this iterative process of improving the quality of our data. And of course, I spoke about it. This is a small slide about synthetic data. And you know what, furthermore, and this is the exciting part, we are all talking about generative AI and how amazing generative models are. The majority of the models to generate data, so synthetic data or the generators of synthetic data are also generative AI. So it's not only about prompts, it's also about creating your own data. So exciting, right? Or I hope so. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, can you tell us what synthetic data is?
Oh, of course, of course. So we can say that synthetic data is artificial generated data that was not collected from real world events. So in a nutshell, is data that is generated by machines, of course, that when generated in a data-driven manner can keep the same characteristics as the real world data, but not traceable back to the original individuals because there is no one-to-one match. Yes?
How different would that be from simulations?
So simulations are also a level of synthetic data, but you can put it synthetic data in perhaps 3 different levels. One, there is what probably some of you know as the faker, which does generate synthetic data, but does not hold correlations or relations between variables. It's still useful, especially if you want to test workloads on environments. But it's synthetic data. It's data generated by a machine. The second level would be data-driven synthetic data, or data that was generated based on real-world events, just to map out the distributions and how the data looks like, and afterwards be that solution from where you can generate new data. So you learn the distribution, and from there, you are able to generate more data. That's the second level. The third one would be definitely the side of the simulations, where you are aware of real world, but you want to go a bit further and you want to test out hypotheses. You want to validate scenarios. That's why it can be considered the last level, because it can bring you more advantage. For example, swan events, right, in financial world. Also for earthquake prediction or tornadoes or catastrophes, really. So those are probably how I would put it. Yes.
Hi, you referenced that like in scenarios where there is no data, synthetic data can be used in like as an alternate. But like how like usually when we talk about synthetic data and like taking text mode or something like that, the synthetic data is like more like something here from a reference point.
Mm-hmm.
But like in situations where there is no data and where we do not know what kind of data needs we have, how do you go about generating data?
It does depend. There are several ways, right? One that probably many might know is agent-based model generation, where you have some assumptions from the business or some awareness of how people would behave, and you generate data from that. Or you have the population extrapolation. So you start with, for example, census usually give you the population understanding, and from there you want to derive individuals, for example. Those are cases where you probably don't have the original data that much, but you can derive still synthetic data from it.
Like how close would that be to the real data being generated by a business? Like if for some reason a competitor has that data being generated in the business already,
Mm-hmm.
they compete with them. Like general motions would be able to catch whatever kinds of patterns are there in the.
I'm not sure I followed the last part, sorry.
I'm just saying, like in general, I do not know how in practice, like a synthetic data set would compare to a real life data set.
Okay.
Or how the patterns and trends of a real life data set would be integrated into the synthetic data set. Given that I have no previous data. So like how do I overcome that problem? Like because initially if you are not generating any data and then kind of something out of it, like matrix or like benchmarking process becomes very fun.
True, that's a very good point. But you would be surprised on how much we give value to what looks real, and how much that influences our perception on the value of synthetic data. there are a few very interesting examples out there about how we did have few information and synthetic data that was generated proven to be very accurate when in reality we were able to map for example, COVID studies, COVID-19 epidemic studies, they do generate data because the synthetic data to map out some possibilities. And that data have shown to be very accurate to what happened in the end. So, and the same happens when you generate data-driven synthetic data. So you have business and you want to augment your data. So it's interesting on how much we give value to what looks real for us, because it's like, I would say it's the perception, it's what makes you feel safe. But in reality, synthetic data, if you see it as the advanced or what you can imagine and dream about, synthetic data can be much better than real data in some scenarios, or at least can be that support that you don't have from your real data, either because it's too messy or is inexistent. But there are very interesting studies. Even Uber has one, but more on the images side. They do not generate data that looks like real cars. They do generate things that don't look human. So for humans, I don't understand what is there, but the value that data has for training machine learning is fantastic. So very interesting topic. So synthetic data is a full world. You can see my excitement about it. So I do recommend. Okay, and well, sure, and feel free to ask more questions, but just to wrap up on the last piece, there is no iterative process without pipelines, or what we call the ops on the data preparation. Everything that you do with data, just like you do with software, should be versionable, controllable, traceable, and comparable. And pipelines are exactly that model that allow you to do that. So how can you measure that the last data preparation step that you did correctly influence the results that you are getting from your machine learning model? So impute the data with the mean is totally different from imputing the data with the median. How does that impact the business? That's what pipelines allow you to do. You understand, okay, so this is my baseline. I'm trying to improve it. And as soon as I find the right iteration, I want to have it productized. That's what pipelines are for. And of course, this is my perspective. This is what we have built in to Y-Data. And I don't know if we have time, but I would like to very, very briefly cover just a quick sneak peek on the platform and share a few materials from our open source. Let me check if okay, you can see it correctly, or it's too small? It's a bit small, right? But well, so we do have the data catalog for the data profiling. So this is where we allow the users to consume the data from several data sources. When you enter in a data source, you have right away a sneak peek on how the quality of your data looks like. So you can very quickly consume the main points. So warnings, what you should really pay attention to, when was updated, so when was the data really refreshed or read. And afterwards, you can have a very detailed understanding on how the data behaves. So let's say you find a warning and you want to understand how does that warning is behaving in terms of some variables. That is exactly what you can do in a very detailed univariate and both in multivariate perspective. Of course, we have more validations from the correlations to the missing values to understand whether it's missing at random, missing not at random. So all of that good stuff about the quality of your data. But afterwards, you will want for sure to act upon the problems that your data have. And probably if you are a data scientist, you would like to have a Jupyter notebook kind of experience, or at least an environment that you know. That's exactly what you can get. You can get that with the tools that you're already familiar and combine with, for example, things that I really enjoy, like synthetic data. right? After the labs, of course, we also have the one-click kind of experience, not really one click, few more for synthetic data generation. Here, it's where you can, for example, I'm training this synthesizer, so it's just generating a report on the quality of your data compared to the real one from where it has learned. So you have everything in a very comprehensive report with statistics. So comprehensive for especially the ones that do love statistics and maths. And from a generated, from a trained synthesizer, you can generate as many records as you would like. You can have cool comparisons. For example, as I have augmented a lot my original data, you can see the difference in terms of the histograms. But this is the, let's say, combined with the detailed profile report, this is where you can have a grasp, visual grasp on how your synthetic data looks like in terms of quality. And last but not the least, and the pipelines and the orchestration. Let me show you how does one pipeline looks like. As you can see, as a data scientist, I can right away understand what was done with each and every data set that I've read. And I can compare the different runs. So as a data scientist, I can have right away an understanding of what was the impact given some certain input parameters. Sorry, this is very small. I know, and I use glasses, and I know how difficult this is. Sorry.
Are you measuring the
Go ahead.
Are you measuring the F1 score on the same held out data set for both augmented and not
exactly?
It's actually getting more performance.
Exactly. That's exactly what is being done here. All the metrics here are on hold out, so unseen data set from the both the synthesizer. So because the augmentation here was done with synthetic data, so the holdout was kept from the synthesizer and the training. The classified year one was trained, and all the results here are well based on that holdout. The model, if not mistaken, was used was the SGBoost, which usually is already a robust kind of model.
Question. So do you have control over what kind of data you generate in? Meaning how close it is to the original data? Or can you do like slightly different standard variation or some balanced?
You can, especially we do allow you to conditional generate the synthetic data. For example, if you want to balance your data set, you can control that, and you say that you want a certain class to be more represented. Of course, that means that your original distribution will be slightly shifted. You also can control a bit a parameter for privacy. So let's say that you want to optimize it for more privacy. And by privacy, I mean how close is to the real data. We also allow you to tweak that. But there are much more control that you can have on the synthetic data side. Not specifically, for example, on the standard deviation that you want to generate.
I was excited about the outlier box. What do you do for outlier?
We do have a full pipeline for the outlier. It's not only based, so for now, it's only supporting numerical variables. And we do have both a new univariate and multivariate perspective that we combine together in order to deliver, let's say, a curated elements of what can be outliers. Those models that we use, some are based, for example, in terms of the variation. Some are those are the univariate perspective. You can tweak them and you can control how much. At the moment, that's what we are doing. And well, if there are no more questions, or whilst we are doing the questions, I just want to, if you want to geek out, yes, we have open source. Feel free to visit us. Why data profiling for data quality. for data synthetic. If you just want to get familiar with synthetic data, please, it's free, it's open. We do have a community if you have more questions. And well, happy to listen from your side.